Yes, good morning. I'm very glad to be able to present to you a report that's called Social State of France that I've been presenting all over France for some time. It's the second time we produce it. The first time it was prefaced by Nicolas Sarkozy, and in conclusion of this report we were writing that democracy is disappearing now. But what we're talking about in this report is that it's not social only, it's also economics, politics, and it's not France, but it's also regions of France and Europe and the world. So I'm going to show you a small part of it. It's going to be frustrating for some of you because when we talk about the world, obviously it's very complex and we have very many different parameters to take in charge of, but I'm going to be trying to make a synthesis of what I show you. So in this report we classified the 26 French regions and the 27 European countries based on social link on one side and performance on the other side. And then we cross the two different arenas, social link and performance, and we try to understand what's happening. And then in order to understand, we made over 100 public debates with very many citizens. We made over 200 workshops with managing people from different arenas, university, unions, companies, and very many deep meetings with people to try and understand what are the basics to understand when you compare the territories one to the other. So what we're looking for is how do we live together? What makes the difference? And we try to, and I'm going to try to show you what are the blocking points or the mechanisms in order to transform society and to build sustainable performance and being together. So what do we look for? We earlier this morning we were talking about the well-being and the happiness. And in fact, it's a dead end to try to measure happiness. What's not a dead end is to try and measure performance on one side. Performance, what is it? It's your ability to achieve your goals. Economic goals, education goals, innovation goals. And on the other end, we try to look at social link. What is social link? Is the way to include most of the people inside this performance. Like Jean-Éric was saying just a while before, that in Morocco we have a problem because you have the top layers and the down layers, and not everyone is included. So do we include the women? Do we include the youth, the youngs? Do we include the elderly? Do we include the poor? Do we include the ill? So that's social link. So you have all the statistic information in the report. I'm not going to be deep inside each and every one of the statistic, but the furnisher of the statistics is Eurostat. So we didn't build the numbers. We collect them from Eurostat and we publish them in a way that we can build two aggregates and two classifications in social link on one side, performance on the other. So I'm going to show you first the classifications of the 27 European countries. So you see the numbers are from 2008 because we didn't take 9 and 10 because some countries have social and economic amortisseur. Amortisseur. Smooth, yeah. So we took the numbers before the financial crisis, anyway. And so you have social link and performance. And now I show you how all countries are positioned one toward the others. So the first thing we can see in this classifying is that all countries are in a diagonal where the the classment, the position in social link is about the same as the position in performance. Like in France, since we're in Paris today, the performance in France we are 12th or 11th in Europe, and in social link we are 12th. So it's about the same for many countries. So then what we did is that obviously we try to understand why all countries are where they are. So for example, when you look at Greece, which is down, it was in 2008, so before the financial crisis, you ask to the Greeks what's happening there, and you understand and you hear to what the Prime Minister of Greece is saying for a few weeks now. He's saying that the main problem in Greece is the social cohesion. Why? In Greece you have corruption, you have black economy, people do not pay their taxes, and so when people do not want to be part of the collective of the team, then the team doesn't work. And you can build whatever policy for education, for health, for whatever, when people do not want to be together, it doesn't work. Now when you look over there in the green round, you look at Austria, the Netherlands, and the three countries from the north of Europe. Austria and the Netherlands first. They have some political system which is the federal system. In the federal system, you have a local government that has a lot of power to raise taxes, to decide its own policies, and to decide whether they're going to be part of a national project. And then when you come to the national, you have several people that all have a word to say, which is very important. Now you look at Finland, Denmark, and Sweden. It's another kind of political system. There you have the principle of government agencies. What is it? When the public debate make a diagnostics, which is, for example, we need roads. Okay, so then now in the public debates, we're going to decide how many road kilometers we need. Then we're going to check on how it costs. We're going to decide if we have the budget for it. We're going to decide when we want to have these goals achieved. And then when we decide all this, we have a feuille de route, a roadmap, and we isolate it in a non-governmental agency, and we design, we name some top people, and these top people are in charge of putting in place the roadmap. They don't do the roadmap. They don't decide on the roadmap. They have to put it in place. And then the political debate has not the possibility to enter in the roadmap, which has been already made somewhere else at another point of time. So in the governance, here you have a very important point, which is a big difference between the time for thinking what the problem is, what the solution is, and then the time for putting in place the solution. It's not the same people, it's not the same kind of competence, it's not the same kind of know-how, it's not the same kind of people, not the same kind of action. So in the political system you have a difference between the thinking and the deciding of the roadmaps and the deciding on putting in place the roadmap. Now, furthermore, in this graphic, you see here all these countries that are not well placed compared to the others. Look at Portugal. Portugal was a despotic system until 1974. Salazar left the power, 1974. Look at Spain. Franco left the power in 1976, despotic system, very recently. Malta was always occupied by very many different foreigners, and until recently it was the British. The French had part of it. And then you see even Italy. Italy was the country in Europe that stayed the longest under a despotic system. When Hitler arrives at the power in 1933, in January 33, Mussolini has been in power already for 10 years. The model of Hitler was Mussolini. So what you see here is that when you don't have a way to include people in understanding what the problem is, when you isolate the people that decide, and then it means that some people do not share the problem, do not share the same preoccupation, have their own understanding of what the problem is. And when we all have different understanding, we all work in different ways, and we don't work together, and we don't achieve any common goals. So we could go deeper and deeper to analyze all of these countries. That's what we do, but we don't have the time today. Just and France is, as I told you, not at the very right place. We started this work about 10 years ago, looking at France, and we had this map for the French region. I'm not going to talk to you a lot about this, just to show you that we have the same thing in France. All regions are in the diagonal, except for Île-de-France, which is Isle of France. That's Paris, the Parisian side of France. And in fact, we are here in Île-de-France, more performant than any other region in France, but with a bad social link. So it means you can succeed doing performance without social link only at one condition. It's if you have a competitive advantage that makes you able to do what you want without taking care of others. When you have that kind of position, you don't care about social link. When you want to include everyone, you cannot go faster and not include everyone. And obviously, the performance of Paris is not made by the Parisians, it's made by all of France for 1,000 years. So I'm not going to tell you about all this, but we analyze the same thing as I told you. And what we see here in the conclusion is that the way you can understand how you're going to perform, how you're going to have social cohesion, which is in correlation very tight, is the way you mutualize information. Do you include or not the different people, the different ideas, the different source of information, the different goods, the different rules, the different ways to innovate? That's in the mutualization way of information that you're going to find not only performance, but also social link. And what it means is that since the steam machine was invented in the world in 1780s, we have two different ways to look at the world. We have some people that say performance is more important than social link, because I invested my money, my personal money, in the factory, so now I took the risk, you need to work for me, and we need to make money to be okay on my investment. So you have one way to see the world, that's liberalism, that's the way to defend capital. And you have another way to look at the world. It's some people that say, no, it's time to share the cake. We need to share the performance, and that's more important than performing. Sharing is more important than performing. And in fact, we see with this study that it doesn't work anymore. That in fact, now, either you're going to build performance and social link, or you're going to not build performance and social link. You cannot choose saying, let's go build value for my money, my investments, or let's take care of people. In fact, if you want to build value, you have to take care of people. If you want to take care of people, you have to be successful together, because if we try to play football, soccer together, because we're friends, and then we always lose the games, then we're not going to keep on playing soccer. So we have to perform together in order to stay together. And so what we need to do is build a new floor in the governance. The new floor is to be able to become an adult democracies in order to include each and every citizen out of each and every country, in each and every country, in order to make sure that everyone understands what the problems are and what the solutions are, and how each and every one of us detains part of the solution. And if some of us say, okay, it's your problem, it's the minister, he has to decide, it's not my problem, if you have that in a country, then it means it cannot work. Because in democracy, it's the power of the people. If the people say, I renounce to my power, I give it to a minister, and the minister has all the power and I do not have any responsibility, that's not democracy. So you have a very big risk arriving now. You see all the extremists, right extremists coming, left extremists coming, that say, okay, the world is too complicated. Education is too complicated. Being a doctor in such discipline is not being a doctor in another one. So how are we going to be able to be experts in all the disciplines to understand everything? Citizens cannot do that. So how could we let them talk about the big problems if they don't understand the problems because they watch soccer and they watch to who was married to who in recent or future wedding. And if you have people not caring about the most important problems, then the risk is that some of us might say, we cannot build democracy with people that don't care. But in fact, if we do that, we're going to go down and our societies are going to lose on performing and social cohesion. And now, my last and very last point, we have many problems in front of us. The budgets, state budgets, it's a tragedy. Biodiversity, the same. Demography, very tough. Raw materials, the same. We're using them more and more, and we have less and less. Like the peak of oil is behind us. So we need to change the way we look at things and the subjects we take in charge. And in order to solve all these problems, we have to enter a new era in which we're going to build citizen education. Citizen education in order to build awareness of the problems, to build not only awareness, but the ability for everyone to participate in solving the problems with their own functions, with their own means. And in order to do that, we need to go further with the discours sur la méthode of Descartes. He wrote how to think by ourselves, and now we need to think together. It's much more complicated. And so the nerf de la guerre, the war nerve, is not money anymore. The war nerve is governance. Either we can build a new way to govern that include the diversity, or we cannot. And that's how we're going to build social cohesion and performance. Thank you.
I think by your emotional talk, you gave a very good example of the revolutionary tradition of the French people. So it looks like that you are calling for a new revolution from this place. And I also understood that while I was living as a youngster for a certain while in the Val de la Loire, evidently this is a nice place in France, as well as since 14 years in Austria, which is also a nice place in Europe. We have little time for one or two questions at maximum. Stefan.
Referring to the session we had before, I'm curious. Can we measure good governance? Can we compare it nationwide? And what measures would you suggest? Maybe participation, something like that?
You cannot measure directly governance. You measure social link and performance, the way you achieve your goals, and the way you share, you include everyone in achieving the goals, or you leave apart some people, and then you see where the good governance is, because the good governance is the one that makes us all successful. If we want to be together on the long term, we have to have reasons why we are going to be together. And if being together is too hard for me, then I stay home. And if being together is better for me, for you, for all of us, then we want to be together. So how can we organize being together? And then we need to optimize the case studies of all governing places in the world, and even in companies.
So an exception, Lev asks for a short question.
Yes, it's building on your citizen education. What kind of arena do you see? Have you thought about what some studies shows in Sweden as well as in Egypt, that the football arena is that kind of coming together?
I'm not sure I understood. You say
the football arena,
yeah,
as the new arena. It's not the universities. It's the football arena that gives you that kind of coming together instead of the universities.
Okay, now two problems in what you say. Playing ball, soccer, that's not being together. It's playing together. So living together is harder than playing together. Okay, because living is hard. I have to work, to make money, to pay for my children, to pay for my rent, etc. So playing ball, that's not living together. That's first part of it. Second part of it, so it's a trap, thinking that football would be building social link. It's not true. You go in Paris, you go see Paris against Marseille, and you have half of the stadium saying, "Fuck you, Marseille." That's what they say. So that's football. So be careful to sports. Be careful to sports. It's very short-term problems. And the second way to answer your question, the second side of it, is that you can look at a soccer team, at a sports federation, and understand why they make medals worldwide or why they don't. Like, for example, in France, why do France never get any medals in halterophilia? Okay, we always lose, always. And why do we make medals in judo? We always win. We didn't invent the sport. And you look inside the governance. And there are very smart things that are not done here and done here. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, the question I would like to raise is very complementary to what Leif said. Culture and the cultural sector are first very key indicator of the social link existing in the society, and is also a very strong force to create social link. Could you explain why you don't even use any cultural indicator in your analysis, or use culture as a social link power? Why is it denied?
Because it's very hard to measure culture. You cannot measure directly with statistic indicators. You have culture, you don't have culture. I'm not going to make you a quiz to know what you know or what you don't know or what your thinking is. That's another kind of exercise that we can do, but it's not the same. Here we're working with public indicators, and public indicators, you don't have that kind of measure that makes us able to make comparison.
And do you think that makes smart policy making to deny that sector?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are things that you measure in life with quantities and things that are quality type of things. It's like in science. You have hard science, mathematics, and you have soft science, psychology. And so you can measure in psychology, and that's what we do with what we call social IQ, that we put in place a long time ago, but it's not the same exercise. Today, I showed you only with public indicators.
May I make the suggestion, Mr. Chantaraud? I don't know if you have time to open a table during lunchtime, that you would be available for all those who have questions, because Waltraud and Jacques have also questions. But I'm sorry, we are a bit running out of time. So if you offer it.
Unfortunately, I'm not staying for lunch. I would have loved, but maybe...
Okay. Then we do the following. You just ask the question and you give a very short answer.
I just want to know where do you start the discourse in the society? If you, for instance, are in a country with a low social cohesion, like in Greece or Spain, typically the discourse would be started by civil society organizations who are contradicting the existing power. So where do you start this discourse to get a country to another level of social cohesion?
Jacques, you asked a question. I think Pierre, you also added to that.
I have a very short question. Have you published anything in English about this?
Okay. Simple question, and Jacques?
Yes, a question and one remark relate also to Stefan. Coming from the Netherlands, so being in this upper category, I do not fully recognize myself as a federal state. However,
No. This was Austria.
However, to measure, underlying measures that can be useful is the rule of law.
Of what?
The rule of law. There are indicators, rule of law. There is a transparency index, and there is also corruption index. And if you see in these countries, they score very high on these indexes. With respect to social cohesion, there is, however, one intriguing question, and I would like to propose them to you, because in Denmark and the Netherlands, there is, in recent elections, there is a move towards extreme right governance. Interesting, when I was coming to Paris, I read on the Financial Times the percentage of foreigners, and precisely the percentage of foreigners is the lowest in all European countries, in precisely these two countries, in Denmark and the Netherlands. So only think in the Netherlands is 3.5%, far underneath the average of France. So how can you how does social cohesion tailor in these perceptions and these measurements?
Okay, I'm not going to be able to answer to everything, but I'm not saying that Jean-Dominique is a friend of Odyssey. You can have lunch with him later on.
With Jean-Dominique showing up. Here it is. So,
what I'm going to say is, in order to go further, either in social cohesion and performance, you have to start where you are. You are the head of state. You can build ways that are going to be more participating. You are head of the city. You can do that. You are head of a company. You can do that with your employees, with your clients, with your shareholders. You are a citizen. You can enter non-profit organizations and try to enter what my big friend from Morocco, is not now in Morocco. He was dead in September 14th last year. Mohamed Harkoun was calling responsabilité intellectuelle, intellectual responsibility. It depends on each and every one of us. We need to build ways for our contacts in each of our meetings with ourselves, with our people that we work with, that we meet. We need to enter intellectual responsibility, to enter complexity, to go towards the others, what they know, what they don't know, and try to find out better ways to work together and to live together. We have to enter respect.